BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every single stat. It's got every matchup, guys, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Well, guess what? There is a $200,000 mega contest where you can pick 5 games against the spread every single week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of that 200 grand. And when the game is over, head on over to our online casino, get in on a game of blackjack, poker, unwind with our over 150 slot games. By the way, those slot games are very fun. I've tried them. Head to the website today to get in on the action. P.S. There is an awesome Monday night game tonight. The Saints are taking on the undefeated Chiefs. Will they pull off an upset? Will the Chiefs lose their first game? We'll see. Get in on the action, guys. Bet online. The game starts here. What's up, guys? Welcome to Bleav in Rams, part of the Bleav Network. Erin Coscarelli back with you for another recap of the Rams. Be sure to subscribe, comment, rate, follow this podcast. You can also catch us on Bleav TV and follow us on all the socials. Tyler Dragon, my co-host from USA Today, back with us for a Monday, not victory day, but unfortunately, the Rams did not eke out a win. They've lost 2 in a row. Tyler, first and foremost, how you doing?
It was a rough day for LA sports fans, as we were just talking about, Erin. I mean, the Dodgers, the Rams. There was a lot of L's going on in Southern California. It was tough. It was tough.
A tough day for Sean McVay, a tough day for Matthew Stafford. Uh, you know, they're heading to the bye. There's a lot to get to with this particular game.
Mhm.
I don't even know where to start. Rams, they fall now to 1-4 to the Packers 24-19. And if you saw it, there were some bright spots. There were certainly some bright spots. Some interesting things ended up happening. We'll get to that momentarily. But what was your overall takeaway from this game as they head into the bye, losing 2 straight?
Yeah, so, okay. Well, like you said, let's start with the bright spots. Kyron Williams played well, rushed for over 100 yards, had a rushing touchdown, I
Yep.
believe. Jordan Whittington, Tutu Atwell, decent games. I thought the defense played pretty good. That pick
Mm.
six got after Jordan Love a little bit. Contained the Packers for the most part, and the Packers were dealing with injuries as well. Their receiver position was depleted. Dobbs was suspended, and Watson was out with injury. So the Packers were dealing with their own issues as well. So I think the Rams, they were competitive. that is the positive. The negatives are a lot. I did not think Matthew Stafford played a good game. He only had 1 interception, but there were about 3-4 times where he could have had interceptions. I felt the offensive line kind of failed the Rams a little bit. Matthew Stafford was under duress a lot in that contest. The secondary, big plays happened far too often, and you know, they just didn't really close out the game. They had a lead, and then the Packers went on scored 14 unanswered points, and then the dam kind of broke a little bit until the fourth quarter. They fought back, and that was a bright spot for the Rams. They were in position to try to pull off an upset, but obviously came up short. But it's going to be hard now. 1-4 entering the bye. The silver lining is, though, and I was talking to a colleague after the game, that nobody's running away with it in the NFC West. The 49ers lost a tough game to the Cardinals, a game that they should have won. The Seahawks lost. The only team in the NFC West that won on Sunday were the
Mm.
Arizona Cardinals. So this is a division that's still wide open. And a lot of people believe the 49ers are going to take the division, or maybe the Seattle Seahawks. But those teams look beatable, certainly, both having lost yesterday. So the Rams, they're still in it, but they got to get better
Yeah.
in a hurry.
I love that your cup is half full, and you're an optimist because you're actually not wrong. The Rams, despite their record 1-4, those losses, three of them at least, except for the Cardinals' loss, have been lost by one possession. And the Rams have had the opportunity to win them late. So all is not lost if you kind of look big picture. Yes, the record is a little scary, 1-4. They have the bye early.
Yeah.
They need the bye right now. Maybe some big changes might come. But we asked this question last week, and you said, you know what, the panic button, it's over here right now, but it's getting a little bit closer. I mean, what does Sean McVay do heading into the bye week 6? They have a home game October 20th against the Raiders. Uh, Reports are saying Cooper Kupp should be back by that game. But let's not forget that Cooper and Puka have what Dr. Chow calls lingering injuries. So even when they're back,
Mhm.
that's not necessarily, let's all just put the chips in on those two guys. They may need some time to sort of get back to it. But you did mention Tutu Whittington played a great game. And yeah, Kyron had a season best despite the fumble loss. You know, things look good in terms of a young team, but not good enough to get a winning record at the moment.
Yeah, not good enough. They're not playing winning football. They don't make winning plays down the stretch. They have costly turnovers, bonehead turnovers, really. And the defense gives up a lot of big plays. And the offensive line has really failed Matthew Stafford at times. I Bleav they run block decent, but their pass blocking leaves a lot to be desired. You mentioned the panic button. It's getting closer. It's like right on my desk right here now, and I haven't pushed it yet. But if they lose to the Raiders, I'm officially pushing the panic button because you can't go to 1-5 and expect to and salvage your season at any point. And this is a Raiders team that when they play after their bye week, that probably won't have Devontae Adams. He might be wearing a different uniform. Their quarterback issues, and a Raiders team that's probably in rebuild mode. The Rams, prior to the regular season, this is a team that a lot of people expected to make a playoff push, and they still can. They just need to get healthy and need to put together a complete football game, and we have not seen them do that, quite frankly, yet this season.
Yeah, you mentioned a Raiders team that has Devontae Adams. Are you hearing the rumors that the Rams could be a target for Devontae? How do you feel about that? Would that make sense?
So it would Devontae Adams will make sense anywhere. He's that type of receiver. You can make a case that he's still the best receiver in the National Football League. I'm hearing the Jets are the leaders in the clubhouse for Devontae Adams. There are also teams like the Ravens could be in the mix, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those are the three front runners, I Bleav, for Devontae Adams. But there could be some teams that try to make a late push for him. It's Bleav his trade market is going to start ramping up this week. I will be surprised if he doesn't find a home by the end of the week or early sometime next week because his hamstring injury is healing. For the Rams, I do Bleav he'll be a fit. I mean, when you have three healthy receivers and you have a Devontae Adams, a Cooper Kupp, a Puka Nakua, and then a Tutu Atwell at number 4, I mean, you can make a case that that's the best receiving corps in the National Football League if that were to happen. I don't Bleav it's going to happen, but we've seen stranger things occur in
Yeah,
the
I mean,
NFL.
if I'm just gonna give my opinion, it doesn't really make sense. First of all, I can't picture Devontae Adams actually wanting to go to the Rams with the season that they're
Yeah.
having at the moment, sort of in their own
Mm-hmm.
essential rebuild. But also, it's not that the Rams need a quality wide receiver. There's so many other. I mean, Tre'Davious White was a healthy scratch. They need guys on
Yeah.
defense. There's so many questions that I have about the defensive possession, the defense for the Rams. Did it make sense that they let go of Ernest Jones this season? Did it make sense to you with seeing the issues that they have defensively?
Well, Ernest Jones wanted a contract extension. The Rams weren't willing to give him what he wanted. So I get why the Rams ultimately decided to part ways. However, like you said, I certainly agree. The Rams have a lot of holes on defense. The best thing about their defense right now, probably their front four, because after that, their inside linebackers need upgrade. Their secondary certainly needs to be upgraded. And I don't see it happening, unfortunately, this season. The Rams are going to have to scour the free agent market in the offseason and the NFL draft. It would not be surprise me if the Rams' first pick next year was a defensive player, maybe in the secondary, or maybe even at that linebacker spot, at least with the first few draft picks. But yeah, the defense really can't stop anybody. And really, the Packers were down several of their starters yesterday, and the Rams still could not get it done because of that defense. Their secondary and their linebacking corps. Josh Jacobs had a decent game as well, scored his first touchdown in the Green Bay Packers uniform. So yeah, the Rams, they have some deficiencies, but we're not telling any lies here. At 1-4, you have a lot of deficiencies if you have a record.
Yeah, Tre'Davious White benched, and McVay said it was a coaching decision. He's been a pro in every sense of the word. This is why we love McVay. He has such good coach speak. We felt like we were going to have a larger role for Akello, so there was some special teams consideration that go into it, and that was what resulted in him being inactive. So, it just seems like, yes, you mentioned it, the front four, but everything else feels a little chaotic. Defensive tackle Kobe Turner had 2 sacks. He knocked down a pass and he forced a fumble. But you have to wonder
Mhm.
where they go from here. I mean, the Cardinals are a better team than people expected them to be. And yeah, it's anyone's guess what's going to end up happening in the NFC West. But momentum is very important right now. And as they head into the bye, you got to wonder what Sean McVay is thinking, what Les Snead might do. Are there going to be, like I asked you last week, at this point, do you expect to see any major changes happening?
Rams fans are not going to like my answer, but no. I, the major changes that the Rams have coming, hopefully a healthy Cooper Cup after the bye, and hopefully a few weeks after the bye, a healthy Puka Nakua. That can change the trajectory of the Rams season, especially if they beat the Raiders. And then you have a huge game against the Minnesota Vikings
Mm-hmm.
after that. If the Rams are able to turn around their season after this bye and go on a winning streak, then we can be having an entirely different conversation. And this won't be a doom and gloom Monday podcast. It could be a victory Monday podcast. So I do believe that there's some hope because you have players that are
Yeah.
impact players coming back relatively soon, especially Cooper Cup. So they just have to really get back to the drawing board in this bye week and realize what the deficiencies are and try to improve those things because some are fixable. I mean, the defense can play better, and you have an offense that can not turn over the ball. Stafford has some ill-advised passes, and I do believe when once your receivers get back, he'll be more comfortable and have more chemistry with the guys on the outside. And that will also open up the running game in
Mhm.
Kyron Williams
Speaking
as
of the
well.
running game, we saw Blake Corum get in on the action. We were
Yeah.
wondering when we were going to see the rookie play. And he looked good. He looked really good. And I think you have to be encouraged by what you're seeing on the offensive side of the ball while the two guys, Cooper and Puka, are out at the moment. Whittington looked great. Tutu holding up his end of the bargain. And you're absolutely right. The big thing I think Sean McVay said this offseason was, how do you fill the void of Aaron Donald? You don't. We hope that our offense can overcompensate for some of our defensive deficits. And while,
Mhm.
like you mentioned, the team has the firepower or the impact players to do such a thing, right now, it just seems like there's like communication issues. It just feels so inconsistent. Chris Shula is still sort of figuring out his position as the defensive coordinator. It just seems like they need more time. And of course, obviously, the injuries aren't helping the team rally together because it is a bit of a young team. Obviously, Stafford, not so much, but uh, you just have to wonder. This is the worst start the Rams have had since moving to LA in 2016. In fact, the last time they dropped four of their first five to start a season was when they were in St. Louis back in 2014. This is uncharted territories for Sean McVay. Someone actually asked me this yesterday, and I told them they're ridiculous. But Sean McVay is fine, right? Like, this is just, at the end of the day, really kind of out of his control. I guess he can take a little bit of flack for all the injuries that riled, that racked up in preseason. But really, this isn't Sean McVay's fault in a lot of ways. He's not on the hot seat by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I mean, he's a Super Bowl winning head coach. Sean McVay is not on the hot seat. The only thing I disagree with you on, the Rams have all the impact players because they don't. They're
Right.
not healthy.
Yes.
Like the impact.
Half of them are
I
on
mean,
IR.
Kyron Will, right. Kyron Williams is probably their impact player remaining on offense outside of Stafford, and I do believe that Sean McVay missed an opportunity to not have a two-headed monster in the backfield, especially when you're dealing with injuries at receiver with Blake Corum and Kyron Williams. But I believe if they are in the game together, you have some opportunities to create things in the running game and in the passing game, especially given the type of player that we think Blake Corum is. So maybe we'll see that after the bye. Maybe they're going to work on some plays, some gadget plays for Blake Corum and Kyron Williams in the backfield, because you need to kind of manufacture explosive plays on offense because that's kind of missing.
Yes.
Tutu Atwell had a few nice plays, and Winnington had a few nice plays, but for the most part, let's just be honest, those two players don't
Yes.
scare opposing defenses. They're backup receivers for a reason. So the Rams really should try to incorporate Corum more and use him with a
That's a good
Kyron
point.
Williams.
Yeah. And it was interesting when we had Marshall Falk on, he made a really good point that the offensive line being banged up, being injured has so much more of an effect than just playing in the game. Meaning you don't have your defensive line going up against your number ones. So when you don't have your defensive guys going up against your number one wide receivers, it's just like a domino effect. And one of the things
Mhm.
Coach McVay said after the game, after the Packers game, that I found interesting was, we had such a great, I'm disappointed because we had such a great week of practice and preparation. And I think that those moments are really important to gather together and to really set up a game plan. And it's very out of character. Even despite the injuries, we saw the team go on a tear at the back end of last season. Despite having, had some injuries and some issues, they have the ability to overcome it. We've seen Sean McVay do this before. But now they've got a tough stretch. Of course,
Mhm.
they have a home game against the Raiders, but as you mentioned, they've got the Vikings. Then they go up north. They play the
Mhm.
Seahawks. And then they've got a Dolphins game at home. They play the Patriots. And then they got to tackle the Eagles. So, it's not like this season, the schedule gets any easier, right?
Mhm. Yeah, it doesn't get any easier. They do have some winnable games against the Dolphins, the Raiders. Those are the Patriots. Those teams, they're in rebuild mode, and they are having quarterback issues, injury issues as well. So there are some games and maybe some surprises. We didn't expect the Rams to beat the 49ers. They beat them. So let's see if they can pull off an upset against a Minnesota Vikings team. The Minnesota Vikings, they're undefeated, but they don't look like world beaters. They still have Sam Darnold at quarterback. He's a journeyman quarterback for a reason. There's some games that the Rams could pull off an upset, but they're going to have to rally together and improve in all three phases: offense, defense, and special teams, because right now they're struggling in all areas of the football right
Yeah,
now.
they need to make some changes. They have to make some kind of change heading into the bye week. I guess I'm not going to see you until not this Monday, but the following Monday. Uh
Mhm.
we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. What can Sean McVay do? What does Les Snead decide to do? There's a lot of rumors out there. Of course, the Devontae Adams potential acquisition, although I find that highly unlikely. Anything is possible, but highly
Mhm.
unlikely. Yeah, the Rams head into a bye, and then they've got a home game against the Raiders. We shall see. For the moment, though, the Rams are 1-4. They lost to the Packers. Tyler Dragon, you are always winning, though, in my book. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you so much. Have a
Bye.
great day.